Good morning. We'll begin our service this morning with the lighting of the Christ candle and the ringing of the bell. This morning with the lighting of the Christ candle. There is only one presence and one power in the universe and in my life. God, the good, omnipotent. Now, if you'll hold that thought within for just a moment as we become centered before we start our service this morning. Take a deep breath and just let that settle into your soul. There is only one presence and one power in the universe and in my life. And now please affirm together with me once more. There is only one presence and one power in the universe and in my life. God, the good, omnipotent. Our songs this morning will be led by Ryan, accompanied by Jeff Hott. Thank you.
Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. I can feel his mighty power and his grace. I can hear the brush of angels' wings. I see glory on each face. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. I can feel her mighty power and her grace. There's a holy hush around us. I see glory on its face. Surely the presence of the Lord is in this place. Right. Seek and you shall find. The love come trickling down. Seek and you shall
That's the way to wake them up, Ron. Thank you very much. Good morning and welcome to our Unity of Kanawha Valley live service streamed on YouTube and live on Zoom. Thank you for joining us this morning. The service will be put up on the Facebook page later on, so check that out if you don't have Zoom or YouTube. The announcements today, there is a new phone number for the prayer chaplains. So everyone, we would like for you to know that if you receive a call from 304-345-945-0033, it is from the prayer chaplains. So don't hang up and don't think it's a robocall, because you will miss your mighty awesome prayer and you don't want to do that. So also the second thing I have is booklets are available that are provided to us from Unity, the big Unity, and it's 30 Days to Fearless Living. And don't we all need that right now? Wow. Pam will be happy to mail you one of those booklets if you would like one. So just, you can call the church or send Pam a Facebook message or an email, and she'll be happy to do that for you. And please, in your giving at this time, don't forget Unity of Kanawha Valley. We still want to be there when all this is over with, so please support us as you can, and we really appreciate it. Thank you so much. On to you, Scott.
Thank you so much, Peggy. I want to say good morning, welcome, shalom, namaste, and aloha. Ramadan is over, so welcome our Muslim friends. Today is Eid, the celebration of the new month. The light in me greets the light in you. I'm delighted to have you with us here at Unity and online. Or actually, I'm the only one here at Unity. I'm glad to have everyone online. My name is Sky Kirshner. I want to welcome you to Unity of Kanawha Valley Online. Thank you for coming and joining us from wherever you are. And a special welcome to those celebrating Memorial Day today. The Daily Word tomorrow has a beautiful prayer for everyone who has given their lives in service to our country. So please check out the Daily Word tomorrow for that wonderful prayer. Our daily discussion continues. This is the Daily Word discussion online on Zoom at 5:30 every evening except Sundays. And I want to thank you, as Peggy said, for our donations. You are keeping us going. We really appreciate that. And the kids' time with me is Saturdays at 10 o'clock. I know most of us, that's becoming earlier and earlier for a lot of us as we are staying up later and later as our internal clocks are getting discombobulated. But Saturdays at 10 for the kids' Zoom time with me. The mission of Unity of Kanawha Valley is to provide you with a welcoming community of love, acceptance, and spiritual growth. It's my personal goal that you will feel safe with us here today, that you feel free to be yourself and free to explore some ideas that might be useful in your life and in your spiritual growth. Today we will be talking about the origins of the prayer for protection, and particularly the last line, the line, all is well. The prayer of protection begins in a setting that is perfect for this Memorial Day remembrance. If you want to know more about Unity, check us out online, which you've probably already done. If you want to know how to become more involved or become a member, contact me through email, through our website at unitywv.com. And finally, if you need any kind of help, let us know. We are here for you. Prayer is a central part of what we're about, and so let's do that again right now. Would you soften your gaze? Close your eyes if you feel comfortable. You might try letting a smile come to your face. Just notice what the experience of that is. And say silently to yourself, At all times and in all places, the presence of God is with me. In all times and in all places, the presence of God is with me. And if you would give yourself a nice big stretch and a nice big yawn. Oh! Imagine you are touching the shoulder of someone you love. If you are not able to touch them physically, imagine with your mind that you are able to hold or touch someone you love. If you're with somebody, turn to them and say, "Thank you for being with me on this journey. God's presence is in you as well. Thank you for being with me on this journey. God's presence is with you as well." And I want to thank each of you for being with us online today and not being here. I know there's more and more confusion in the news about, are we meeting, are we not meeting? The board will not be entertaining the question until June. And so we will keep you posted, but I just want you to know we're not even thinking about it until June. So thank you for continuing to be safe, make yourself safe. We're not quite through this thing yet. Your being with us in this service is part of the world that we're creating today, and I want to remind you today, just like I remind you every week, everything you do makes a difference in your life and in someone else's life, especially the small things. Every small thing you do makes a difference in this world. I want to thank the universe, God, the source of all life and love, for another day on this amazing journey. I want to thank everyone who's made this service possible, for Pam, for Blue, for Stephen and our board. Just a note out to Pam. You know, I'm the only one that comes in here other than Blue or Pam. Pam, every Sunday, sets up the Sunday Daily Word for me, puts it on the lecture, even though I'm not really the reader for it. That's the kind of detail orientation Pam has. Pam, I really appreciate you and your detail, taking care of all of the details. I want to thank Stephen and our board. I understand Peggy and Deb and probably Kate and maybe somebody else was here yesterday, keeping the gardens going. Who else did I miss, Peggy?
Laura.
Laura, oh, of course, Laura, my chicken partner, and keeping the gardens going, and the gardens look beautiful. Whenever it is that we come back, you will love the way the gardens look. For Ron and Ryan and Jeff, our masters of music, for Peggy, our worship leader today, for Rich, our Zoom meister, for our prayer chaplain, for our daily word reader. Is it Barbie today? No.
Laura.
Laura. Oh, Laura again. Our daily word reader, Laura, and our junior bell ringer today, which I think was Rich Hopkins. So, Rich, thank you for ringing my bell. It's always good to have somebody in your life who knows how to ring. Well, in this case, you rang your own bell, but that's good too. All right, let's move into a time of prayer. We always start off our time of prayer with some gratitude and with some smiles. And at the same time, we want to remember that this is a serious time for a lot of folks in the country and in the world as the waves of this COVID virus come closer and closer to us here in Charleston. So please put up on the chat box. I can read the chat box today. So if you have someone or something you would like to lift up in the today, in the prayer, please let us know who that person is or what that situation is. We lift up everyone every day in the daily word discussion group that we have at 5:30 every day. And please know that we are continuing to lift up everyone and everything in this situation. So let us join our consciousness together in prayer as we notice the beauty of the present moment. We might start with our sense of the sounds in the room. I'm hearing thunder right now, the reminder of this amazing world that we live in. If it's raining where you are, the sounds of the rain. If it's sunny where you are, the sounds of the birds. You might notice the sensation of standing or sitting or walking, whatever state your body is in right now. You might just notice the experience of being in your body right now. And you might notice the experience of breathing. We are especially mindful of the breath. We are especially mindful of breathing. And we remember those who are having trouble breathing right now. Breathing is such a gift. The exchange, the transfer allows for life. And is a metaphor for the circulation of life and love in the world. As we notice our breathing, we may notice a sense of peace, a sense of calm, a sense that all is well. Jesus said, "Seek ye the kingdom is within. The kingdom is in your midst. It is at hand. It is among you." And so we consider this spiritual truth of an underlying reality, a fifth, sixth, seventh dimension, an expansive realm of spaciousness, both within us and outside of us, here and now. We know this to be a place of abundance, a place of sufficiency, a place where all is well. A place where all of our needs are met right here, right now. We have no other needs than to be connected to this spaciousness within us. We know this to be a place of healing, a place of wholeness, a place of cure, and a place of acceptance of what is. We know there is an intelligence to every cell in the body, and every cell knows what it needs to do to be restored to health and wholeness. And so we align ourselves with this process, with this intelligence. We know this to be a place of love, of connection, of forgiveness and reconciliation. A place where the diversity among us is united in a common humanity, a common sense of being alive with all of nature, and in fact with all of the world, all of the universe. We see ourselves unified, we see ourselves at one with everything and with everyone in all times and in all places. And this is a place of gratitude. A place of guidance, a place of wisdom. A place where when we seek guidance, when we seek help, help and guidance may be found. Not always as we expected. Frequently, the response is that all is well. And so we give thanks for the spirit of inner guidance. And it's from this place that we reach out to anyone, anywhere, in any need or trouble. For those living in fear, those living in pain, those living with grief. We remember the nation of Scotland. We remember Mark, who had a setback in his recovery from the coronavirus. We remember families who have been separated. We remember people who are scared. We remember people who are struggling to breathe. We remember those who have made their transition and those families who are mourning. And we give thanks for the first responders everywhere, for medical technology trying to make sense of this. We give thanks for first service providers who are keeping our society going through showing up to provide essential services. And we remember our leaders, we see them surrounded by light and by love. We hold all leaders in light and love as they seek guidance. We remember those in recovery, those whose lives are unmanageable. We remember everyone, everywhere, because we know that God's presence is everywhere. There is no place that God is not. And we know that the consciousness of God's presence is available for everyone at all times and in all places. And for this we are grateful. Now it's time for our daily word. I suppose I'll go ahead and read the daily word. Today, Sunday, May 24th. Faith. I invest my faith only in possibilities for good. The parable of the talents in the Gospel of Matthew tells the story of a wealthy man entrusting sums of money to 3 of his servants before leaving on a journey. When the man returns, he praises and rewards the 2 servants who, through wise investments, have doubled the funds entrusted to them. The 3rd servant, who acted in fear, hid the money entrusted to him and receives no reward. The divine faculty of faith that is part of my spiritual inheritance is more valuable than money. I invest my faith, my trust wisely by believing and trusting that possibilities for good are present, even where good has not yet manifested. And I act on that belief. My positively directed faith brings rich rewards in consciousness. And the biblical quote is from Matthew 25:21. You have been trustworthy in a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Enter into the joy of your master. And now I think we'll hear a song from, we might have some special music today.
Hi, everybody. It's nice to see you again.
It sure is. We've been really missing you folks back in West Virginia, but I think under the circumstances, we'll just need to be patient. But you're always welcome out here once the coast is clear, and we'd love to see you back home too. So take care.
This is a song I wrote some years ago that talks about the ways that people leave home, some by choice and many not by choice. And yet there's most often a pull to come back to the center. All the places I have been, I treasure in my mind, orbiting my restless wind, they were never left behind. Friends have taken different roads and scattered from this place, but no matter where they go, I cherish every face until there comes a time when we will turn around and meet again on sacred ground. Joseph left his father's land, never to return, driven by the white man's hand and by his brother's spurn. But roots still reach through ancient loam, where singing is long gone. Spirits call the children home to hear the welcome song, until there comes a time when they will turn around and gather again on sacred ground. All that passed before us, all that lies ahead, forms the fabric of our lives, woven thread to thread. Tales told, songs of old, the ringing of a bell, bring us back to what we know and what is left to tell. Tonight beneath the starry bowl, the wind is whispering warm to comfort all those southern souls evicted by the storms. In my heart the table's set for Thanksgiving Day, and every wanderer wandering yet will have a place to stay until there comes a time when we will turn around and stand again on sacred ground, until there comes a time when we will turn around and stand as one on sacred ground.
Wow, that was phenomenal. Thank you so much, Bob Webb and Heidi Muller, part of our Idaho musicians, along with Sally Sublett out there in Idaho from West Virginia. That was so beautiful and the perfect. The Heidi, you may recognize her voice from the In This Moment meditation that we do every year at the Burning Bowl ceremony. The meditation was written by Larry Navio, one of our members, and Heidi and Bob are on that, along with Ryan and Ron Soul and Ryan's dad, Jack Kennedy. So thank you for that. That was absolutely beautiful. I don't have a videotaped kids message because it wasn't working, but we did meet yesterday and we all showed off our masks. The kids all had masks and we had fun with that. I could not find my mask, but I did have a sock on. So I took my sock off and it fit perfectly as a mask. It didn't smell the best, but I just want to let you know, if you're ever in a situation like you're going out and they say you got to have a mask and you can't find your mask, let me recommend an extra large sock. Size 13 socks work perfectly as mask coverings. Wow. All right. Well, I have a Memorial Day joke. You better keep the jokes coming because when you leave it up to me to come up with the joke, this is what you get. In England, after the World War II, they wanted the school to kind of understand something about the war, and so the school teacher and the price that England paid in the war with the bombs and the U-2 rockets and all of that. So the teacher invited an elderly British Air Force veteran to come and speak to the class. And he was giving a very impassioned talk about what it was like to be in the heat of battle, flying his plane. And so he started talking about this one situation, and he said, so there I was escorting our bombers to their target. And when out of the blue, we're surrounded by a pack of Fokkers. I had 2 Fokkers on my right coming at me. I had 2 Fokkers on my left. I had one on my tail, and there was one directly in front of me. One of the Fokkers was coming straight at me. Well, the students thought that he was saying a nasty word. And so they started giggling and twittering to themselves. And the teacher stood up and said, children, wait a minute. Let me just explain. A Fokker is a type of fighter plane used by the Germans to stop the British Air Force. And the old veteran nodded and he said, yes, ma'am, those Fokkers were great planes, but the Fokkers I'm talking about were Messerschmitts. Please let me know if you enjoyed that. Thank you, Rich. Thank you. Okay, good. Well, World War II is where we are starting with the ending of the prayer, or actually the entire prayer for protection. The origins of the prayer for protection come in 1940, when the World War II is raging in Europe. I don't think the United States has gotten involved yet, but there is certainly a lot of thought and a lot of heart caring about people and what was happening in Europe. As you may remember, in World War II, I think over 120 million people died in World War II. I mean, it was the largest catastrophe in humanity. I know this number because I was in Notre Dame, the great cathedral in Paris, one time, and I was sitting in front of this pillar, and on the pillar was a plaque from different countries describe in memorial for how many millions of people had died from each country. The Arc de Triomphe has similar plaques also in Paris for the millions and millions, tens of millions, over 100 million people who died in that war. Boggles the mind. And so Silent Unity in 1940 every year did a Christmas prayer for the staff. When I've been to Silent Unity, there was a staff of about 40 people, 30 people to maintain the phone lines at the Silent Unity prayer service. And so they asked the poet laureate of Unity, James Dillard Freeman, to write a poem for this Christmas prayer service. And he wrote the poem, and I'm going to read it to you, or the prayer poem. The light of Christ directs me. The love of Christ enfolds me. The power of Christ protects me, and the presence of Christ upholds me. Well, people in that service were so moved by it, and Unity was about to publish a pamphlet about protection, and a pamphlet to go out to the many millions of people who were suffering by the war. And they were going to call the pamphlet His Protective Spirit. And so they asked James Dillard Freeman to write a little bit more, and he thought he would write something on the 23rd Psalm. You know, that the line that says, yea, though I walk through the valley of death, I will fear no evil. And so he wrote a draft of it. And one of the young women who worked at Silent Unity, she might have been the person who was typing up the draft, came to him and said to him, Jim, if I was a woman in England and they were dropping bombs on my roof, or if I was a soldier and someone was pointed a loaded gun with me, I wouldn't want to feel like I was walking through the valley of the shadow of death. Can't you do better than that? And James Dillard Freeman writes, can't I do better than the 23rd Psalm? No, I'm not sure I can. But he took her thoughts and he thought, you know, she's right. And then that little prayer that he wrote for the Christmas service, he was reminded of it. And so he went back and he thought, I don't want to just say Christ because a lot of people all over the world are hurting. I want to make this a more universal prayer. And so he took Christ out and he substituted Christ with the idea of God. Or actually, he just took Christ out, substituted with the idea of God. And so we got the first 4 lines of the prayer for protection as we now know it. The light of God surrounds me. The love of God enfolds me. The power of God protects me. And the presence of God watches over me. That's how the prayer was first printed. And then a few years later, a line came to him as he was saying that prayer, and he thought that a 5th line would make it more powerful. And so he added the line, wherever I am, God is. Wherever I am, God is. And that is what's known as the prayer for protection. It's the most used poem that Unity has ever published or printed. And it's not just used in Unity churches, every Unity church, just about, as far as he knows and as far as we know, uses that prayer for concluding the service. The prayer became very popular in World War II, especially among military folks, because when they were feeling scared or in trouble, this prayer gave them great comfort. I heard a story, I could not find it in my research, but I know I read a story at one point that during the battle for the Bulge, when the Allied forces were surrounded on 3 sides, the Bulge was, they had moved into German territory and the Germans had surrounded them and they were in danger of kind of encircling them completely. And that during the battle for the Bulge, they flew in little prayer cards that had this prayer on it. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but I do know that military folks, military men and women, carried this prayer with them in all languages. Here's an example of how far-reaching this was in terms of giving comfort to people in the military. When Buzz Aldrin, the astronaut, most astronauts started in the military. When Buzz Aldrin went to the moon, he carried the prayer for protection with him. He left it there on the moon, as did, there was one other, Apollo 14, I can't remember that gentleman's name. Do you remember the Voyager, the spaceship that we sent, that Carl Sagan sent? We just sent it out, straight out into the universe with a map of where the United States was, or where the Earth is, and just kind of just sending it out there. And we put all sorts of artifacts from the worldwide culture on this spaceship that we sent it out. It's called Voyager. On Voyager are 2 Unity prayers. One is the prayer for protection. The other is James Dillard Prayer's poem, I Am. It's appeared in hundreds of publications, thousands of publications, with no connections to Unity. Millions of people carry this poem around with them, on their phones, in their pockets, on billfolds. It's been translated into almost every language. Frequently, no author's name is given. James Dillard Friedman was fine with that. Sometimes other people were named as the author. James Dillard Friedman was fine with that too. He writes, "It has been changed again and again before it reached the form that now meets people's needs the best." This is one of the things I love about Unity, the idea that God's revelation is evolving, that God's Spirit evolves with us. And such a generous spirit he has as the author of this, that people's needs transform the prayer as they need it to go. The prayer is a product of much thought and concentration of a mind that was willing to stay open and receive divine inspiration all along the way. Now, here's the thing that's sort of interesting. James Dillard Freeman did not write the very last line that we all say. He did not include this in his original prayer for protection. The line I'm referring to is, wherever I am, God, or wherever we are, God is, and all is well. This was added on. I don't know who added it on. It's a beautiful addition. It really lands well on the ear. It lands well. It completes the prayer for protection as we know it now, but it was not part of the original prayer. Certainly the idea that wherever we are, God is a standard unity idea. Since we all have God within us, God's Spirit is everywhere, including within us. So God's Spirit is with us, God's Spirit is us, and we are expressions of God out in the world. Everyone is, not just believers. Everyone. This is a fact of our existence. It's a fact of being alive. In fact, it's not even a fact of being alive. But in our belief, it's a fact of being. If you exist, you have God's Spirit in you, whether you're a rock or a chicken or a person. What I'm interested in is this final 3 words, all is well. And I want to spend a little time talking about the origins of this phrase, all is well. In some ways, it might be the most important phrase of the entire prayer. As I was researching the origins of this phrase, one of the origins comes from the Night Watch. I'm not referring to Game of Thrones necessarily. I'm referring to if you live in a city in the Middle Ages, there will be people walking around who say the town crier, who's the town shouter, the person who has a large voice, and who sometimes is the night watchman, and he would walk, or she would walk, probably a he, would walk through the city and say, it's 1 o'clock and all is well. It's 2 o'clock and all is well. I don't know how they told time back then, but if you're on a ship, 3 bells and all is well. And so there's this idea of this reminder that all is well. Another theological place where this idea that all is well comes from the song that some of you may know. It's not in the Unity hymnal, but the song, It Is Well With My Soul. That song starts with the phrase, when peace like a river restoreth my soul, when sorrows like sea billows roll. Whatever my fate, thou hast taught me to say, it is well with my soul. This song has an interesting origin. It was written by, the words were written by Horatio Stafford. Horatio Stafford was a very rich guy in Chicago right before the Great Chicago Fire. His son, who is 4 years old, dies of scarlet fever. And he says to his family, you need to get out of here in order to, I can't stand if anyone else catches this and dies. And so he puts them on a boat to Europe, to England. They had relatives in England. And so he sends them off to England. And on their way to England, the boat collides with another boat, and 200 people perish in that tragedy, including all of his children. He had 4 daughters besides the son who died from scarlet fever. All 4 daughters died in that boating accident. The wife makes it to England and writes to him, I'm the sole survivor. What do I do? And he immediately books passage on a boat to England to join his wife. And on the way there, the captain, who is aware of his story, when they get to the place where the accident happened, the captain said, "Mr. Stafford, this is where your daughters perished." And that is when the words to this song came to him. It is well with my soul. It just came to him in a flash. When sorrow like sea billows roll, whate'er my fate thou hast taught me to say, it is well with my soul. But actually, the idea of all is well goes way back even further. And I am referring to Julian of Norwich. Norwich is a town about an hour and a half by train north of London. It's where the Norman invaders come. All the architecture is round towers. And Norwich in the 1300s is the second town of England. It's the second biggest town next to London. And it has a huge number of churches. I've been to Norwich, I've been to a number of these churches, including the Church of St. Julian. St. Julian is famous because of someone who lived in the church in the 1300s. In 1370 is when she moved in. Her name was, we don't know her name. She's named after the church. We call her Julian of Norwich. She was a mystic. She is what's known as an anchorite. It's the word anchor with I-T-E on the end, an anchorite or an anchoress. This means that she is someone who has decided to live in the church in a cell, a closed-in cell, connected to the church for the rest of her life. She went into this cell at about, I know this sounds strange. I experienced this, I have traveled a lot, I guess. I was once in Kiev in the Ukraine. Orthodox Christianity is there, and I went to the catacombs below Kiev. And you get this little candle and you're walking around, and in the darkness of this catacomb, there's no electric lights. There's a monk standing facing the corner, praying. He's been there all day, praying in the dark. And as you're wandering around, you come across him, and then you wander for 5 more minutes, and there's another guy in another corner praying. And in these catacombs, people would, if you were very religious and very spiritual and wanted to turn out the world and only be in a life of prayer, you would seal yourself into one of these cells. You would brick up the door, and there would only be a little window for food and water and for what amounted to plumbing. You could let things in and out through this door. And you would sit there contemplating God. And that is what an anchoress is. Was the anchorite movement. People would connect themselves to churches, and they would build little cells, or there would already be a little chapel, and they would brick up the chapel. Julian Norwich, there were no doors to her cells. She bricked it up. They bricked it up from the inside and the outside. There were 2 windows. One was for food and for their plumbing, and the other is to receive the Eucharist and to give counsel and prayer. These were seen as holy people, and people would come to them for counsel. Julian of Norwich, the first woman author in the English language who was published. Her book it's called The Revelations of Divine Love, was the first book published in the English language by a woman. She has a theology that is so close to unity, it is unbelievable. She was a mystic. She thought of God's love as motherly love. She referred to God as Mother, Father, God. She said, Christ is not just like a mother, he literally is a mother. And she used metaphors about Jesus in relation to her ideas about theology. God conceiving, God giving birth, God weaning, God bringing people up. Some of the quotes from her writings, these sound just like Charles and Myrtle Fillmore. We are not just made by God, we are made of God. We are not just made by God, we are made of God. Heaven is a place where we are one. O-N-E-E-D, one. We are, and she describes this, we are one into oneing. O-N-E, the word one, I-N-G. She made the word one a verb to describe what happens after we die when we rejoin the great unity. She wrote that God has no wrath. God is not angry. I say this at least once a month. God is only love. There is no anger in God. If there's any anger, it's on the side of humans, but not on the side of God in terms of human-God relationships. God is not punishing us. God is not mad at us. She wrote that God sees us as perfect and waits for the day when human souls mature, that God sees us as perfect and that God is waiting for the day when sin, which we think of as errors in thinking, no longer hinder us. She writes, God is nearer to us than our own soul. You've probably heard that sentence before. This theme gets repeated, these themes get repeated over and over again. In her book, she wrestles with why is there evil? Why do bad things happen? She's living in the 1400s in Norwich. Norwich at the time had the Black Plague go through, and 3/4 of the city were killed. We suspect that probably all of her family was killed. I don't know if they knew enough about social or physical isolating to say, you need to isolate yourself in order to get contaminated or not get contaminated. We do that today. She was one of the early social and physical isolators. Can you imagine just bricking up the doors to your house and only having 2 windows to let food and let the plumbing in? But here's why I'm bringing all of this up. It was Julian of Norwich who wrote the words, all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well. T.S. Eliot uses this in several of his poems, which is probably how it comes to us modern people. But Julian wrote this in 1417 is what we're guessing. We're guessing between 1370 and 1417. All shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well. Now, I've known this phrase for a long time. I always thought that it was a mystic telling us, don't worry, Sky, I, Julian, can see all these things, and everything's going to be okay. But as I was researching it this week, I discovered no. These are not Julian's words to us regular folks who are anxious. This is God's answer to her when she describes in 27 chapters all of the pain, all of the suffering, all of the problems that are happening to human beings. And she has this revelation. She called it a showing. She had this revelation where Jesus came to her in the midst of all of her description of all this pain. And it's Jesus' words to her, all shall be well, all shall be well, all manner of things shall be well. And so I love that we end our prayer for protection with the idea that all is well. I think of Julian of Norwich. I think of the suffering that she witnessed and that she experienced at that time 600 years ago. Oh my gosh. And I think of this, the way that Jesus came to her in her revelation, in her mystical vision, telling her it's okay, no matter what happens, all shall be well. She doesn't get more of an answer than that. It kind of reminds me of the movie, the Most Exotic Marigold Hotel, when Dame Judi Dench is going to the guy who owns the hotel with all the complaints about what's wrong, and she's going off on him, and he says, "Don't worry, it's all going to work out." And she says, "But how?" And he says, "I don't know." And in a way, that is such a beautiful, trusting sense of the world. She doesn't get an answer as far as what Jesus means in this revelation, that it's all going to work out. But she gets this idea, and when Jesus says this to her, she writes, "It was said in such a gentle way. It was said so tenderly, without blame of any kind towards me or towards anyone else." This idea that God is love, that no matter what we're experiencing in the here and now, this is going to be okay. Well, I think that's a good place for us to stop. I'm looking forward to the next song. I have no idea what it is, but Rich, moving back to, I guess we're moving back to Peggy, who's going to start with the offering prayer.
Yes, I am. That was really interesting, Sky. I'm going to look that lady up and see if I can learn more about her. Thank you so much.
Good, thank you.
And now, if you'll speak with me, our offering statement, we'll say that together. Divine love, moving in and through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. I give in love, I trust God, and I am grateful. Okay, back to Ron.
One, two, three, four. Voices are calling around the earth. Music is rising in the sea. Spirit of love
Jeff. Thank you very much. And now let's take a moment and bless our offering. Divine love, we thank you for these gifts as they make their way to support the mission of Unity of Canal Valley. We are holding close in our hearts each and every person associated with this church and affirming that together we will be made stronger by the circumstances we now find ourselves in. Our love and support is blessing each giver today, whether the gift is prayers, affirmations, or donations for our wonderful spiritual home. We are blessed by our connection to our Unity family, for we are a family of love, and we are grateful for this truth. Amen. Amen. Do we have any birthdays to celebrate today? Rich, do you see any birthdays? Anyone have a birthday?
I don't know of any.
Okay. Well, I can't think of any, so we'll do our peace song. How's that?
Okay. And Suzanne, can you help us with the going back and forth? I don't know if we can get in sync that way.
Now together, our prayer for protection. The light of
The light of
God,
God surrounds us.
the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. Amen. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Amen. I'm going to unmute everybody so we can visit with each other. It might be a little chaotic, but great to see everybody on the call today. Hi, Mary Beth. Hi, Everett. Saw Everett there. There's Everett. Is he happy today? Hey,